I was of two minds when it came to fully reviewing the first season of Witch from Mercury. I feel my individual reviews have covered the series pretty well, but as a whole, the series is terrible, and it feels as if my individual reviews really don't get that point across. Obviously, I did decide it was worth making this video, especially after talking with other people and realizing I'm not the only one who disliked this show. More than that, I wanted to address some of the defenders of the series. While this will not be the worst Gundam series ever made, the flaws in this highly anticipated series do drop it down into the dregs of some of the worst Sunrise has ever given us. First off, let me discuss the positive aspects of this series. The animation is beautiful. The blending of CG and traditional looks really natural and can at times be wonderful. While the character designs aren't very inspired, the important characters are distinct enough to stand out amongst the cast, and many of the side characters have a very distinctive look as well. The background music was well done, with the choral parts really adding to the battle sequences. The mechanical designs are not terrible. The aerial and Jeturk units really do stand out. However, the show does not do enough justice to the good designs. Now for the flaws, and there are many. The story is broken. While the prologue does set some things up, it doesn't follow through with anything. We know that Prospera wants revenge, but we see very little of her plan. Suletta seems to have no idea about her past, probably because she isn't the same person as Eri, and it seems like Cathedra got lazy over the years because they enforce almost no laws. As the story progresses, we don't get much progress. We get occasional duels, Miorine creating Gundam Inc., and an ending with almost no stakes. Worse yet, the only character to get any growth is Guel, a side character. I have a question for you. What is the plot of Season 1? It wasn't the revenge story that Prologue promised. It wasn't Suletta uncovering some dark truth or fighting to save her friends. It wasn't about the difficulty of high school, as the school was barely part of the show. Just a backdrop. It wasn't corporate intrigue, as that's also barely part of the show and is often quickly resolved. There was no grand plot for this season. It was a series of events with the bare bones of connections that led to nothing. It had a strong opener and a shocking final moment, and somehow people are satisfied with the show. If your standards have fallen that far, then I recommend watching superior shows to recalibrate your taste so that you can better understand the difference between good and bad. However, that isn't even the last of the show's problems. The opening song is outright terrible, with discordant melodies and an overuse of autotune. I've already made commentary on multiple videos about how much better the opening themes of several other series are to the abysmal song we got here. The end theme isn't terrible, but it's very forgettable. The series fails at showing off the robots, because even if we do get those very occasional battles, they don't show the mechs nicely or state their names clearly so people know what units they're looking at. In many other Gundam series, a character will state their name, their unit name, and then say launching or let's go. We rarely forget this. We hear the student numbers more often than we hear the names of the units that aren't called aerial. If the secondary goal of a Gundam series is to sell toys, and it is, then doing this is a terrible way of showing off the robots. You need to show them off in a way that allows people to have a personal connection to them. At this stage, the only people who care about the robots are those who are indoctrinated into the cult of Gundam merch. Then we have the characters. One of the biggest problems with the show. Just about every character is a basic trope, with very little real personality. Even the interesting characters, like Nika and Shattuck, don't have much in terms of personality. Then we have Miorine, who goes from wanting to escape to Earth, protecting her garden, and keeping Gundam tech away from others, to being fine with her father, sharing the tech with Pell, and having hired help take care of her garden. This isn't a full arc. This is a shift between episodes. In episode 9, she does everything she can to keep Grassley away from her things. Then, in episode 10, she has a completely different personality. Worse yet is that Suletta lacks both agency and has no motivation to do anything other than go to school. She has no real energy when it comes to doing anything other than what she's told to do. She even befriends and gets engaged to Miorine on accident. Numerous times during my individual reviews, I pointed out that there were great opportunities for Suletta to have growth, and yet it never happens. I don't need my Gundam protagonist to be an action hero, but I do need them to have some kind of motivation and, if possible, grow into a better person as the story continues. Speaking of Miorine and Suletta, let's talk about their relationship. Everyone was hyped about them getting engaged in the beginning of the series, but as the show progresses, it becomes obvious that Miorine doesn't really care about Suletta as anything more than a placeholder. Even when they have their heartwarming moment in episode 11, we see Miorine hit Suletta and talk about how she wants her to take care of chores, less so than wanting her as a romantic partner. This isn't a healthy relationship, and we can tell that Suletta isn't really into the engagement much either, as she develops her feelings towards Elan. There are plenty of toxic relationships in Gundam. This is by no means the first. However, this is the first time where we see a toxic gay relationship being used to prop up the show amongst viewers. The sad part is, some people like this couple, and they should take the time to really think about the relationship between Suletta and Miorine before claiming that this is one of their favorite Gundam couples. One of the biggest sins of this series is the horrible world building. While the prologue sets things up nicely, there is no follow-through. Even little things, like the condition of Earth, are glossed over with one little news report. The companies are making anti-Gundam weapons when no new Gundams are being built, which means they wasted money making weapons that only have use because the story happened. More than that, the important aspects of school life are completely ignored. There are no teachers who are characters. Classes are rarely part of anyone's life, and there are no major school activities outside of one business prom. This series takes cues from Harry Potter, but can't even do it right. The Harry Potter series had many teachers who were important characters. Important school events, and classes were sometimes key plot points. By the end of 13 episodes, we know so little about the world, and we know even less about the school, which was the whole point of the series, to give us a different setting and school drama. Now, there are plenty of people who will defend the show. While it is fine that people have terrible taste, it seems most of the defense of the show is flimsy at best. The ones I most often see are that this is just the beginning, it's a slow burn, or they are doing things differently. While I do agree they are doing things differently, it doesn't mean they're doing things right. As for a slow burn, that's fine, but you still need to make things interesting to keep people watching. Fellowship of the Ring is a slow burn. It keeps you interested with characters that are likable and the growing tide of darkness that the Fellowship must face. As for the "this is the beginning" argument, all I have to say is that they have had 13 episodes already! For those who may have forgotten or didn't start watching anime until last year, let me give you some examples of the first 13 episodes of a couple Gundam series. Mobile Suit Gundam. Amuro takes the Gundam while the colony is under attack. In the meantime, we meet the colony survivors who make up the White Base crew, one of whom is the sister of an antagonist. They get pursued by Char as they escape, and make their way to Earth after some tough battles. On Earth, they encounter Garma Zabi, who relentlessly attacks the White Base team. Then, they also have problems with the crew, as the stress of battle wears on everybody. Garma is betrayed by Char and dies in battle. His fiancée tries to take revenge and fails. Giran Sabi rallies the troops, and Ramba Ral is sent after the White Base. The 13th episode has Amuro meet his mother and get disowned by her. Mobile Fighter G Gundam. Domon arrives on Earth and battles Italy's Gundam, while a mystery is being built around the man Domon is looking for. He then battles the US, China, France, and Russia Gundams, expanding the cast. Domon returns to Neo Japan, and his backstory is finally exposited. There is more world traveling, and Domon works alongside the US, China, France, and Russian G-fighters, developing those characters' stories and personalities. Then, Master Asia appears as a possible ally. The 13th episode has Domon facing the Devil Gundam and his 4 rivals, who are being controlled by the monster. At the end, Domon and Rain combine their powers to barely survive the fight. Iron-Blooded Orphans. Mika and the boys are introduced as part of CGS. They are used as human shields as the leadership retreats during a battle. This leads Mika to using the Barbatos, which up until that point had been a generator for their base. The boys take over CGS and turn it into Tekadon. As CGS is getting transformed, their first client, Kudelia, feels bad about those who have died for her and tries to help the team. We also get to meet Gaelio and McGillis, who have a brief encounter with Mika. Tekadon flees Mars and battles Gallahorn before having an encounter with the Turbine group and joining up with a mafia-like organization. The Barbatos gets a nice upgrade, and the team encounters a pirate group. This battle leads to the death of Akihiro's brother, and the gaining of a new Gundam for the team. The 13th episode has the Tekadon team hosting a funeral for their fallen friends and family. Some of you may think it is unfair that I compare Witch from Mercury to some of the more popular Gundam series. So instead, let's look at school-oriented action anime, the kind of series this show was trying to be. Full Metal Panic. A mercenary named Sagara is sent on a new mission to protect Kaname, a Whispered, the magical MacGuffin of the series. Sagara was raised as a soldier and doesn't understand how to deal with school life or normal society, leading to many humorous events. Things heat up when Kaname is kidnapped during a field trip, and Sagara rescues her. Kaname learns more about who she is, and after several mech battles, Sagara gets a new unit, but has difficulty utilizing it. After that, things go back to normal, where we have simple high school drama, and of course some character love triangle garbage. Kaname and Tessa get kidnapped by terrorists, and Sagara heads out to rescue them. He has a battle with a giant mech called the Behemoth, where he is outmatched, but Sagara overcomes the challenge. The 13th episode is a filler episode where 2 of the ladies compete with each other and have newfound respect for each other when all is said and done. Revolutionary Girl Utena. The story begins with Utena being inspired by a prince and going to the Atori Academy, where she gets into a duel and wins the Rose Bride. Utena defends her title, and afterwards, she tries to help Anthe, the Rose Bride, live a normal life. Miki is introduced as an important side character, and this leads to Nanami being introduced as a side villain. Utena has several duels, and even silly filler stories like a body swap episode. As we move through the season, we learn about Saionji and Toga's rivalry and history. Utena gets entangled with all of Toga's drama, and Utena is crushed after defeat at the hands of Toga, and must regain her inner strength and reclaim her title. After all the drama and personal growth has been completed, we have the 13th episode, which is basically a synoptic, but it does hint at upcoming events. My Hero Academia. We follow Izuku Midoriya, a person with no powers who encounters his hero, All Might, during a supervillain attack. He proves himself to All Might by showing courage while lacking powers. He gets trained by All Might and is given a new ability called a quirk. Then he enters the entry exam for UA High, which he barely passes. He also discovers he can't fully control his quirk either, so he has to be careful at school when utilizing his powers. This leads to a mock battle where Izuku faces his rival and starts to build confidence in his abilities. You learn more about Ida and Bakugo before a big battle with supervillains attempting to attack the school. The students hold off the far stronger enemies before All Might arrives to save them all. In the 13th episode, the end of the season, the characters reflect on the battle as the villains plot their next attack. I expect people to claim that my comparison isn't fair, and those people are wrong. Witch from Mercury tries to be something different, but is mostly a knockoff of better things. It tries to be a Gundam series and falls flat on its face. It tries to be a high school drama with almost no high school. And it tries to be an Utena knockoff, only achieving it for one episode. It's sad to say, but Witch from Mercury might be one of the worst Gundam series, and a second season will not change that. I've seen the claims that Season 2 will be better, and I've seen the questions of how can I predict that Season 2 will be bad. My answer is simple. It's the same staff. If they couldn't make a good first season, what makes you think they can make a good second season? If the staff had the ability to make a good show, they would have done it from the beginning. That way, everyone would have been hyped, everyone would be buying merch, and everyone would be looking forward to Season 2. The first season was able to ride a hype train and trick a few people into thinking it was a good show. However, upon second viewing, I feel people will drop off the train. This is no different than The Phantom Menace, where many people, myself included, loved the movie upon first viewing, but then with every subsequent viewing, disliked the movie more and more. I had to watch every episode 2 or 3 times while working on my individual reviews. No matter how much hype I began with, and Prologue helped a lot with my hype, it faded as the major flaws of the series became more and more apparent. While there are some who are looking forward to Season 2, I'm meeting more people who have lost the hype, and some who outright don't like the series. This video took me far longer than I wanted. This happened because, while working on the script, I kept adding more and more as the problems of this series became more apparent to me. If this show did not have the word Gundam attached to it, I wonder how many people would have watched all the way to the end. More than that, I doubt it would have made those Best of 2022 lists I kept seeing either. Sunrise has made plenty of bad shows in the past, both Gundam and otherwise. It isn't uncommon for a long-running franchise to have weak parts. But what baffles me is that so few people talk negatively about this series. You can find plenty of hate for Gundam Seed Destiny, Reconquista in G, and Build Divers. Yet I rarely see G-Witch hate, and it deserves it more than a show that was ruined by studio interference, a show made by someone who forgot what Gundam was all about, or a season-long advertisement. G-Witch deserves the hate because it had a really good concept and failed in the execution. It had opportunities to grow the characters, but didn't. It had some interesting mech designs and didn't show them off right. It had a good starting point and no idea how to move forward. Despite all the flaws, there are enough people in the cult of Gundam that even the worst shows will still have a following, and Witch from Mercury is no exception. I know this video will earn me more enemies than friends. I know that Sunrise and Bandai couldn't care less about my videos. I know that my complaining won't make Season 2 good. All I can hope is that I have made it clear why Witch from Mercury is a bad series, and possibly helped you reevaluate your view on it. Or, if you agree with me, I've just reinforced your view. I am grateful there are plenty of good Gundam series, manga, and video games. I'm lucky to have come across such a deep and enjoyable franchise. I just want Gundam to be good, and even if a series exists just to sell toys, if the characters are rich and complex, if the stakes give me reason to watch, and the plot moves forward, then I'll be happy. Market the robots all you want. Thank you for watching. I know this was a long video, by my standards, but it was something I had to get out there. Yes, I'll be reviewing Season 2, and no, I don't think it'll be good. However, I try to judge things without bias, so we'll see how well that goes. Until next time, thank you for watching. Whether you agreed with me or not, the fact that you made it this far means a lot. I'm gonna go watch some good Gundam before the new season starts, and until then, I'll see you at the tavern.